I think the eye is like a muscle and you need to train it to make it working very good. That's why going out to shoot on the street or even documenting your daily life makes your photography better, and you are more fragile or sensitive to this moments that surrounds you.
Hello everyone, Tomasz here, and on today's episode of Photography Radio I have a very special guest, Tomasz Lazar, Polish photographer, winner of World Press Photo, Sony World Photography Award, Grand Press Photo. The list goes on and on. His work has been published in New York Times, Newsweek International, Sunday Times Magazine, and Los Angeles Times. As Tomasz says himself, he is also a coffee lover and a music enthusiast. I do hope very much you will find my conversation with Tomasz interesting and that it will give you this another necessary kick to keep your own photography on fire in 2020. Enjoy my conversation with Tomasz Lazar.
Can you imagine your life without photography? No? Then you will love this show. And it doesn't matter if you're a DSLR, a mirrorless, or a mobile phone shooter. We're here to help your photography grow. This is Photography Radio.
Tomasz, welcome to the program. Thank you so much for accepting my invitation. How are you doing this morning?
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much, Tomasz, for inviting me to this podcast. First of all, I would like to congratulate you the top 5 podcasts rank. So I'm very happy to be here and talk with you about photography.
Yeah, thank you so much. My pleasure, my honor. I must say it's a nice coincidence, right? One Tomasz is talking to another Tomasz today. I hope it's not too risky, and I hope we come up with an interesting and engaging conversation, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Tomasz, when looking at your portfolio, I was trying to come up with a definition, quote unquote, definition of Tomasz Lazar. How would you describe yourself? What kind of photographer Tomasz Lazar is?
I mean, at some point, I was thinking how would like to describe myself, but now I can see that, first of all, I would say that I'm a photographer. If I would have to choose, we could say, labels, I would go for documentary, portraiture, this kind of photography, also with a bout of street photography. So those are the main things that I'm really interested in.
Would you say, with you doing those different kinds of photography, is there some kind of a common denominator which comes to combining all those genres? I
mean, what I really like and what drives me is to find this surreality in all photographies. I mean, finding these moments, situations, also light that makes even the simplest image very magical. Somewhere between we could say, normal world and some different one.
Yeah, I mean, one thing is for sure, you are not, for lack of another word, you are not a mainstream kind of photographer, right? Your photography is very, very personal and unique. And I think things like sharpness, perfect composition and perfect quote unquote exposure, for sure, they don't belong to the top part of your priority list. So what is it that fascinates you the most? When being out there photographing on the streets, or in the landscape, or at the events, what are those triggers? What triggers your curiosity? What are you looking for when creating your photographs?
If I'm working on a long-term projects, I'm trying to find a project that will get interested in me, and I would like to tell the story, because the building the project is like creating an painting or an image in the frame. So we have the form that is surrounding the image and what is inside, and the form is the idea how we would like to make the project, and that's why many projects needs to be interesting for me, like, for example, Children of Siberia or Shinjuku Crash, or Sea of Trees about the Aokigahara forest. So interesting stories that are behind and that I can find a deeper meaning inside. That's the one thing. And for the street photography, for me, it's more like an I would say exercise, but the idea is that I think the eye is like a muscle, and you need to train it to make it working very good. That's why going out to shoot on the street or even documenting your daily life makes your photography better, and you are more fragile or sensitive to this moments that surrounds you.
So working in projects, I feel like this way of working kind of brings or drives you the most, and are you convinced working in projects results in producing, stronger, better quality work?
I mean, it depends on the person. I would say that there are people who are working on a project, and this makes their work strong. And there are people who are working on single images, and they are very, very strong. We can give it, for example, of a living legend like Elliot Erwitt, that since he met the editor in Life magazine, Morris told that he was an amazing photographer who was able to create single images, telling the story in one single image. So I would say it depends on the person and what you really want to say. I like the stories because for me, a project or a story is like a book. So if it's done really good, you want to go from one page to another. So you are reading it very, very carefully and with full interest.
So a project as a whole is this, it's this storytelling element for you. It's like you said, it's like a book, but still I can imagine that, the quality of each individual image in a project is also of importance. And so I'm trying to find out, when you are working on a project, when you are out there in the field, and, approaching this single image, I'm just trying to find out what kind of elements, visual elements in the scene you are actually reacting to. I mean,
yes.
You know what I mean? Is there like a particular juxtaposition of elements that okay, there is a good image in there?
I would say that there are several elements, like in an equation. One of the elements, for sure, what I need to have is a very good light.
What is a good light?
As I told, it's a part of equation. So good light, it can be light from the flash, but it can be also a sunlight. It depends also of the geometry of the place where we are, because in some places it's more working as sunlight, sometimes it's working the flashlight. But also, as you told, that there are just juxtapositions, but also some kind of moments how people are behaving, or moments that you can see that there is a repetition of a moment that several people are doing the same things. So I'm trying to be open for everything that will comes to me, because now I see a street as a stream of a river, and if you are going to go with the flow, you can have in your head some ideas, like you told, juxtaposition, geometry, light, repetition of the moments, some other situation. You can have the other situations you can see on very famous street photographers' pictures, but at the end, when you are on the street, everything can happen. I mean, nothing you cannot predict, I would say.
So going out there, on the streets, or wherever you might be photographing, are you rather going there with a completely open mind, or you have some kind of preconceptions or maybe wishes or ideas that you really want to execute?
When I'm going just for a shoot, I'm going with an open mind, trying to get everything what will come to me. Like yesterday, I had a very funny situation. 4 people were entering to this fine arts academy where I'm teaching. There is also music department, and they were working with the 4 packages that you put the cellos inside, these big ones. I don't know
the cases, right? The big ones.
Yeah,
for traveling.
Yes, for traveling, the big one, and they had in the back. So 4 strange things were entering on the stairs, and this looked so surreal compared also with the interior of the Fine Arts Academy. So this looked an image like for me from Dali paintings. But if I'm doing my personal project, sometimes I'm going with the preconceptions, because you know what kind of image you are searching for, or you have maybe a little idea what you would like to put to the project to make it more solid and working better.
In this entire, process, are you actually thinking at all about the final viewer at any point? Like, are you aware of reactions of the, of people looking at your photographs, or you don't care about it in a way at all when working on your photography? Or are you intentionally, visually provoking the viewer?
I mean, more I'm trying to raise questions when I'm working on my projects. I'm trying to finish my project, and if I'm working on an exhibition or the idea how to show the project, then I'm thinking about the viewer, how to present this work to him. But when I'm working on the project, I'm more thinking about my idea, because this makes the project more coherent, more solid. And you are thinking fully about your thoughts, what you have in your head, and what you would like to tell, and what kind of questions you would like to raise when the viewer is looking at this work.
And are you a photographer that devotes, if you are able, if you have it in your calendar, that devotes much time to one particular, not even a project, but to one particular part of it, let's say a scene or an event? Are you working the scene a lot, or are you rather, a quicker spirit?
I'm more trying to concentrate a lot. If I'm working on a project, I'm giving to it a lot of attention. But sometimes I know that there are situations that you need to also work quick. Because I'm also working on the commercial market, and there many times everything happens very quick, as you also know. So I'm rather slowly worker, but I'm used to also to work very quick. So everything depends on the situation, I would say.
Yeah, I was actually about to ask you later on about those commercial projects. I mean, today, apart from your personal projects, you seem to be also doing more, right? Editorial work, including cooperations with fashion designers, for example. So I can imagine it's a completely different dynamics and way of working, right?
Yes, it's especially you are working with the client, because for the client, everything is prepared by the agency. So you are working with 2 big, we could say, clients, the agency and the client that gave the work to the agency. And then you need to work sometimes very fast prepare the idea, or work on a project. Like I've done the poster for the opera in Paris.
Yes, I remember this
the
one.
350 years. And it was that I had 12 shots in 1.5 hour.
That's some pressure, right?
That was a lot of pressure, because the prima ballerina, she had only a small amount of time between the practices. So I had to prepare everything before, had all the ideas in my head, and just move from one spot to another to shoot all the images that I thought about before.
Let's take this project, this Paris Opera project as an example. So you were working with a client, right? I'm trying to find out how it works these days because, okay, I can imagine the client has his ideas, wishes, vision for the entire, photographic set.
Mm-hmm.
And then you come in as a photographer, which, as we know, you are a very, very creative mind, right? So how does the process work? How did it work for you with them, for example? Like, was there a brainstorming session in the very beginning where you discussed the ideas, or how strong was the vision of the client? How much could you inject of your own creativity?
I would say that was not a typical shoot. Maybe we could later give another example, because with the opera, the art director from the agency, this agency is also working with for example, Louvre Museum. And I was asking before the shoot about their idea, how they would like to see it. And they told me, we've seen your portfolio, you can do what you want.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah, that's that's really open-minded. I mean, it doesn't happen so often. It's very generous for the photographer that he has he can do whatever he wants, but that's also kind of, as I would say, small trap, because if this will not work, then everything is your fault. That's why you need to think really clever how to make the shoot. But in May this year, I was, for example, shooting a campaign for the Pierre Cardin in Paris. And there was a lot of discussion between the client, the idea that I gave. So there is a lot of exchanging information. For example, you are creating the photographer is creating the mood board. So what kind of emotions, what kind of situations you would like to capture, how you would like to capture. You are finding some examples of the images because for the client it's better to show him. He can more understand more or less what you are talking about. And there is the feedback from the agency also and the client, how they like it, what they would like to change. Sometimes it takes several days, sometimes it takes one day. It depends also how big is the shoot. And after finishing all those discussions, then you have the list of shots that you need to do for the campaign.
Yeah, so, the more I think about it, actually, you as a photographer, you are a person being chosen and accepted as an artist by both the client and the agency. So of course, I can imagine that from the very beginning, from the get-go, there is some pretty high amount of trust in your creative abilities and ideas, right? Otherwise, they would not have chosen you in the first place.
Yeah, I think so, because there are also clients that are choosing you because they know for sure that you are on amazing technical level, so you will do this commercial job on a very, very high level. But there are clients like Opera, Pierre Cardin, or some others that I was working that they want to have a much more also creativity from the photographer to make something visually very attractive and very good.
Okay, I see. So this is, of course, yeah, you're right. There are two different considerations. The technical abilities, which, the trust that the photographer will execute on every possible wish from the client, or exactly those artistic and creative abilities that you can bring to the table. So you are right. These are two different things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and mostly I would say we can divide like this, that there are like jobs that require more technical information or skills, and then the others ones that you are combining those skills plus your artistic view.
Yeah, excellent. So the best scenario is when both of those factors, are taken into consideration, and everybody in the end is very happy, right? So that's also when the best results probably are being delivered in the end.
Yeah, I would say that's this, because if you are combining those two, everything can happen, because someone who has this very good technical skills plus a very sensitive eye with this artistic approach, then this marriage can make splendid images.
Let's take a quick break. I hope you are enjoying today's interview. If you want to find out more about my today's guest, have a look at the podcast show notes. You will find them in your podcast application. I hope very much you are already subscribed to Photography Radio. If not, make sure you do it now and don't miss any of our future episodes. Interviews, inspiration, latest news and trends, all things photography in one podcast feed. Thanks so much for listening, and now let's get back to today's interview. Tomasz, let's rewind a little bit, some years back. I want to a bit dig into your photographic history. How did it all start for you? When was it that you discovered photography? Today you are really, an advanced, artist, so to speak. You know what you're doing, you know what your vision is. But did you start like everyone else, with photographing everyone and everything around you? How did it all start for you?
I've started in end of 2006, 2007. I was going to the trip to Spain with my girlfriend, and I didn't have a camera, so my parents bought me one.
Okay. What camera was it?
It was a Nikon D50.
Okay.
Very small guy. And I was shooting images, but I didn't know why something was working, so why some things were not. So after coming back, I decided to read several books about photography, and then how it started. The more I read, the more I was interested in this medium, and like 1.5 years later, I decided that I would like to go back, so start shooting on a film. And I also made my own darkroom. So for some time, I was working in a darkroom, making my own darkroom prints. And this gave me a lot of technical skills and information how everything is working on the film.
So it happened pretty quickly for you that you actually got back to analog, developing your own films. Was photography present in your family? Like, your father, parents, or somebody else was doing photography as well?
My grandfather was using photography. He had his darkroom, but it was closed when I was young, so I couldn't remember it. He was making also his own prints. And then my parents were shooting on slides, on the film slides. Mm-hmm. So there was some experience in my family, but no one was, I would say, working professionally as a photographer.
Okay. And then, you started with the trip to Spain. Then you went through the analog, through the film photography phase. Do you still shoot film today?
I have film cameras, but it's really hard to shoot. I mean, because the life is going really fast, and I don't have enough time, I would say. I would like to go back, but the time makes it really hard.
All those years, did you go through different phases, being involved in different genres, shooting different things? Like, were you kind of looking for your place all those years, going through different interests?
I mean, I've started because my passion was reportage and documentary photography. That's why I also took part at the JobsWorld Masterclass organized and the WordPress Photo. But with time, it's changing. I mean, I'm still like to explore different genres. It gives you more and more experience. I mean, as I told you, documentary and portraiture, I think that is what is the most interests me. Mm-hmm. But I'm also trying architecture, fashion, still life, and other types of photography, because you never know what will open your eyes more. It's like with reading different books, it gives you a lot of knowledge.
Sure. So here, let's stop for a second. It's an extremely interesting topic for me because not only me, but also, several photography friends of mine or, our listeners, we often discuss things like, specializing in one genre or, doing it all and kind of, like you say, being open to what might come your way. Don't you find, this interest and this experimenting in different genres, doesn't it never, result with kind of like a frustration that you are not going deep enough in one of those genres?
I would say that I have those two that I'm going really deep.
Okay.
But there are points, or there is a point at some time that that if you want to cross we could say, Rubicon, you need to try different tastes. Otherwise, you will be still repeating all the same things that you have done or other have done. I would give with the analogy about cooking. For example, if you know how to do a soup or, for example, a kind of a meal from, for example, Polish kitchen, it's good. But if you want to be a better cook, then it's nice to explore with the French cuisine, for example, Japanese cuisine, Thai cuisine, and then you know that you can add flavors, some taste from those cuisines to your cuisine, and this will make it more interesting.
So you're treating those other genres as exactly as those exotic kind of spices or, influences that you can then actually apply to the main things you're interested in.
Yes, exactly.
Nice. And what about black and white and color? On your website, I went to your website, I can see mainly, I think, your black and white work, but then I visited your Instagram feed and I can see that you are working in color quite a lot as well. Is one of those closer to your heart?
I mean, the black and white was also always closer to me. Since I started photography, black and white photography was very easy to me. I mean, I would say that I could see, like, in black and white all the situations that were happening. I also work with color, but for me, color was something different because the colors have a lot of symbols, and if you are working with a color, it has to mean something. I mean, because when you are mixing the colors, then it needs to have a sense. That's why at the beginning more and more I was working with the black and white, and now I'm working also with the color and black and white. So it also develops with time with my photography.
Okay, so today you don't have such a clear preference anymore?
I don't think so. I mean, I work in this and that, and it changes. It is changing depending on the projects I'm working on.
Okay. Let's talk quickly about your second place World Press Photo Award back in 2012, right? You won this prize in the category People in the News. Can you tell us just a little bit more about this experience? What was your winning photograph, or was it a series of photographs?
I mean, in 2012 I went for the Eddie Adams workshop, and after Eddie Adams, some photographers told me that there is a big protest near the Zuccotti Park, the kind of very big revolution around. So I decided to stay 3 weeks longer in New York to document this protest in New York. And during one of the days, I've got information that there will be a huge protest in Harlem. So the situation that you can see on the image, that's one of the girls being arrested by the police in front of the police precinct. And it was quite dangerous because several of the photographers were arrested by, I don't know, there were men in suits, so probably FBI. And when I was sending this work to the WordPress photo, I've sent it as a body of work. And the jury has this ability at the WordPress that if one of the images stands out, they can take this one image from the series and give the award to it.
I see.
So it was done like that, and they move it to the category People in the News.
Okay, so how does the entire process of World Press Photo, award look like? Or maybe, I don't know if it changed over the years, but so you simply were able to send in a photograph to be considered, or you didn't need a nomination or anything from anyone?
No, if you are asking about the contest, you don't need to. You just need to, nowadays, like last year when I was sending 1 or 2 images for the WordPress, you need to send a kind of verification that you are working as a professional documentary or reportage photographer. For example, if you would like to take part at the Jobs World Masterclass, then you need to be nominated because there are used to be 100 nominators around the world. Each person can nominate 2 photographers. And from those 200 photographers, they are choosing 12 that they will be taking part at the Jobs World Masterclass.
And back in 2012, at that time, were you working with a specific newspaper or a magazine at the time?
No, I was a freelance photographer, sometimes working with smaller magazines in Poland or somewhere else. And then the WordPress is changing, I would say, a bit your life. So you can get to know the bigger magazines and start to work with them.
Did it happen to you? Did winning this award influence your career in a significant way?
Yeah, I would say it opens a lot of doors, and it made it more possible for me to work as a photographer on the professional market, not only locally in Poland, but also around the world.
Excellent. Tomasz, we will be wrapping up soon. We are at half an hour mark. 2 more questions. One, kind of a stereotypical one, but let's have it. What's your camera and lens of choice these days?
I like I like 2 cameras. The middle format camera, digital one I'm using, and also a small format camera. From small format camera, I love the Fujifilm X Pro 3, which I'm working on now. And which lens? I think that the most typical lens is 35mm lens. That's the best lens you can shoot on the street, shoot a good portraiture, situation, landscape. So that's a very good lens that you can have with you when you are walking around.
Okay, and the medium format camera?
The medium format, I love the Fujifilm GFX 50R. It's very compact camera as for the medium format. And it's also very good for documentary projects, and I like to combine it with the large format adapter. When I was shooting, for example, the portraiture of Olga Tokarczuk, the Nobel Prize winner, for the New Yorker, I use it combining with my Toyo Field large format camera, so it can give you a lot of fun and makes a great quality.
Okay, nice. Is there anything you wish I would have asked you and I didn't, like anything you would love people to know about you, maybe about what you are doing these days, or just anything in general? Is there something I missed?
I think rather not. You ask quite a lot of interesting questions, so I don't have anything particular in my mind. What else I would like to add?
One thing popped up into my mind. You also teach photography, right?
Yes, I teach also photography. I've started teaching 7 years ago at the Fine Arts Academy in my hometown, and this year I've finished my PhD. So,
congratulations!
Thank you very much.
Yeah, to those of you now listening, so we both, as you can imagine, Tomasz, we come from Poland. And Tomasz is from Szczecin, not the easiest town name to pronounce, but I will try to have it in the show notes. So, how is very last thing? I promise. How do you think teaching, photography to younger photographers, people getting into it and studying photography? How does this fact influence your own photography? Is there forgot the word now, but is there a certain tension or certain, feedback loop between teaching photography and creating your own work?
I would say that there is, because if you know how to explain the knowledge that you have in your head to the students, it also helps you to understand this knowledge deeply and more, we could say, like in a quotes, to digest it. But many times when there are discussions between me and the students, sometimes the students, without thinking, they can ask a very simple question or give a simple thought that it will trigger a chain reaction in my head that why didn't I think about that, for example, or this is a very interesting idea that he told. And sometimes for the students, they don't see this as a very interesting idea, but I think that many times it can come with time, because I have a bigger knowledge, so I know how to work with those puzzles a little better. And then we are exchanging. So summing up, I think it has a lot of positive feedback. I mean, teaching and sharing the knowledge, not only like at school, but because I'm also organizing my personal workshops, but all the information exchange makes to me that I'm understanding photography better, and I can see it from a different angles.
How old are your youngest students?
Youngest are 18, 19.
18, 19. So do you see any kind of, trends, directions, new ideas? We have the whole entire huge mobile phone photography industry now, being more and more present around. But in terms of visual, ideas, do you see any clear new trends surfacing or, appearing now on the photographic scene?
I mean, Christian Courjoul, he is a very famous person who created Agence Vue in France. He told that nowadays we are in the era of changes in photography terms. Changes because photography is redefining itself, because when it started in ancient, when it started on film, the only thing that photography was taking inspiration was paintings. And nowadays, the digital photography takes the inspiration from film photography. So the photography, I think it's still trying to find answers how to work with this medium, because you can see also at Michael Wolff, he was a very famous photographer, artist, who was working on a different kinds of terms as a photography. Like he received the award for the WordPress photos from the Google Street View. So not only cell phones, but Google Street View and other types of infrared cameras. I've seen a lot of projects using all those types of technical equipment that is using to digitalize the image. So yeah, I think in recent times we will see more and more experiments and more development of the ideas how we can shoot, also with the mobile phones.
Yeah, definitely very, very exciting times for us photographers. Tomasz, I wish you all the best with your upcoming projects, all the things to come. And you are in a great, wonderful position of being exactly a teacher, as well. So you are kind of hands-on with everything what's happening, what the young people are discovering and bringing to the table. And you yourself, such an open mind and working with so many different kinds of projects. So thanks so much for this wonderful conversation today. I would love to have you, in a couple of years again on the show. We can then talk what happened with all the, mobile phone photography ideas today and how the photography changed in those few years. All the best once more. Thank you so much for being here with us today, Tomasz.
Thank you very much for the invitation, and good luck with your podcast, and we'll be in touch.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. Hit subscribe on your podcast app. It would mean a lot for us to have you as our regular listener. Head over to photographyradio.com to drop your suggestion for future editions of Photography Radio, or simply to say hello. We would absolutely love to hear from you. In the meantime, have a wonderful night, and we will be back with more photography in your ears very soon.